guys, you are tuned into another episode of Victoria Jenn TV, and today we're interviewing Steve Canal. Steve has a very interesting story. He is not only the award-winning author of The Mindset of a Winner, where he interviews people like Daymond John from Shark Tank, as well as 2 times Grammy Award winner 2 Chainz, Kenny Smith, and so many others. He also has managed to be a corporatepreneur. What is a corporatepreneur exactly? Well, I'm glad you asked. A corporatepreneur is somebody who holds down a corporate job as well as runs a business on the side, and Steve has managed to do both successfully. Today, he'll be talking to us about how exactly he's done it, how has he been able to be the National Community Affairs Lead for MillerCoors, as well as run the brand executive. So stay tuned, grab your pen, grab your pad, because he's going to be dropping major gems on us. Hey guys, you are tuned in to Victoria Jenn TV, and I'm super pumped about our guest today, Steve Canal. Thank you so much, Steve, for your time today, and for supporting us and believing in the mission and vision, and just lending your time, because I think your story is quite admirable. I know I've been a fan since I came across you on social media, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And we have so much to dive in today because your story is so full and vibrant that I want to make sure we hit all the keynotes. But I want to start with, the notion of corporatepreneur, because you've managed to create a career around that. And I'm not sure if folks know exactly what that means. So if you can talk to us about what exactly does corporatepreneurship mean, and then we'll dive into how you were able to actually create that.
Right. Kind of coined that term.
I love it.
First mentioned it, in some of the brand executive calls, and then in my book, wanted to make sure it was etched in stone. Corporatepreneur is basically somebody who's in corporate America, but is also an entrepreneur. I also believe that working in corporate, you need to bring an entrepreneurial mindset. Some call it intrapreneur, being able to bring fresh ideas, be connected with the now, have innovation and insight to the future, and bring that to your corporate setting. Being a corporatepreneur isn't for everybody, because you definitely need to be and have good habits. You need to have, be a pretty determined person to be able to manage that, because time management is key.
Right.
We don't have all the time in the world. So to be able to do your corporate job and be a high performer, not just regular and just doing your day-to-day, you need to be a high performer in order for people to see you doing an entrepreneurial venture and be okay with it. Because where do you have the time to do both? And I get that question asked a lot, right? Let's say corporate, you do 9 to 5. I just say 9 to 5 because it's not really 9 to 5 when it's corporate. It's 9 to 5. For my entrepreneurship ventures, typically I go into the evenings, into the early AM. So whether it's 8, 9, 10 o'clock PM until 3, 4 AM, I'm doing everything else that I'm, passionate about within the entrepreneurship space. So it's time management. So instead of getting 8 hours of sleep, I might get 4. But when I'm doing something I'm passionate about and I love, I'm not impacted or affected by it that much.
Yeah, I think it takes more than just not you having it within you, but also the company itself, right? Because
that's the second part.
Right. A lot of organizations can view that as a potential conflict of interest, but what's so beautiful about the way you've been able to combine the two is you've been able to use your position at MillerCoors to actually not only enhance your brand internally at the organization and bring in ROI and actually build brand awareness, but you've been able to couple it with what you're doing as the brand executive, which is super dope and amazing. So it's like kind of like a beautiful harmony you've been able to create, but I think that has to do with the culture at MillerCoors, with them supporting that.
100%. And now it's the second part to it.
Yeah.
I always like to start with self, because you need to be, on point with self before you can try to do anything external to the world, because what they see is what they're going to take and judge you by. So if I'm on point and I'm sharp in everything that I do, how can you really question, who I am and, my motives? Yeah. Right? So on the second part, to your point, the culture and the organization needs to be on par. You need to either have a good manager or the organization, there needs to be transparency of what your agenda and goals are to make sure there isn't a conflict of interest. So if I release my book and I'm doing a book tour, I enhance what I'm doing, but I also bring on MillerCoors in addition because I have their products available at my events. And if I'm doing something on the flip side where it's MillerCoors, everything that I've done from my books to my personal events to my ventures, I have a following from that.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing that to MillerCoors as well.
Right.
So they're getting incremental.
Too.
Yeah, it's an influence.
Yeah.
My role, I'm a face to MillerCoors. I'm in the public community. People see me. That automatically ties to what I'm doing and MillerCoors. So I try to magnify both and make sure both are being elevated in everything that I do.
So when you first presented it, because on my end, from the outside looking in, I mean, it's a win for MillerCoors. Like, you're amazing, your reputation precedes you, and you're doing amazing work. So it makes a lot of sense for MillerCoors. But can you tell us about when you first presented this to them? Were they receiving it with open arms, or did you have to do a lot of convincing, and what did that look like?
I'm a show and prove kind of guy.
Okay.
So I make sure first and foremost what you hired me to do, I'm doing extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be a high performer, so you can't question my day to day. And if you see me doing other things, the only question you're gonna ask is, how do you have enough time to do both? That's gonna be it. You're never gonna question, am I working hard enough? Am I doing what you asked me to do? You will never have that question from me. So I make sure first and foremost that's taken care of. And then everything else I manage and I go from there. But as far as presentation, you have to be transparent.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have an ulterior motive and not be transparent with what you're trying to accomplish, because in the social world, everybody can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's not much you can really hide.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to do a business,
you have to be on the social.
Yeah,
exactly.
You have to be on social, and people need to see, people need to hear what you have going on for it to be a business to really thrive.
Right.
So you have to be transparent.
So I think what has made, and it may have contributed to this actually coming to fruition or not, but you're in marketing. So usually marketing divisions, they have more of an appetite to do a lot of innovation in terms of how they go to market, in terms of how they brand the organization. So if somebody, let's say, is in a non-traditional function in the organization that isn't, quote unquote, as fun as like a marketing and has the budget and the dollars to do things differently and outside the box. Let's say someone comes from accounting, right? They're in the accounting department and they want to start their own venture. What is your advice for them, since they don't have a role in the organization that could potentially complement what they're trying to do on the outside? What are your kind of recommendations for them if they want to actually be transparent and not keep it on the low?
They need to have a well thought out plan, where they're going and where they plan on going in the future. Because a big fear for corporate is, if you do well with your company, then you're just going to get up and leave.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave, lose good high performing talent. So that's an issue. So you need to be honest with what that is. It could be a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, your retirement plan. I don't know. But you need to have a well thought out plan and talk to how, one, you can still handle your job and then do this side gig or job that you plan on doing, and roll out how you're going to manage it. Off hours, weekends, whatever it is that doesn't conflict with what your day to day is. And then on the flip, we could talk about how it could be a benefit to the organization. You can have new clients that you'll introduce the brand to, but make it a perfect marriage and see how it benefits both parties. But at the end of the day, the organization needs to be confident that you're going to still perform at your level. You don't plan on leaving tomorrow or the next year, the year after, and how it could be a benefit to the organization as well.
So tell us about, because I think this also speaks to the way organizations need to start investing in their talent differently and also really backing up their words. So if you're saying you're looking for entrepreneurs to come and help you grow your organization, then you have to understand that these people are entrepreneurs. They have the spirit within them. So more than likely than not, they're going to have side hustles. They're going to have other things going on besides committing themselves to you and your organization. So What do corporations need to do to kind of hop on that train? Because I feel like not many have, and they're going to lose out, right? Especially when you're thinking about high potential minority talent. We out here, we're hustling, we're trying to do everything and anything. We're trying to build our legacies, right? And we want to include that. We want to include them in our story, right? And on our journeys, but some of them shut that out. So how can we encourage organizations to start thinking about their talent differently and start really encouraging them to explore outside the organization?
Yeah, it's the mindset.
Yeah.
It's the people you hire and put in positions to bring in talent, to understand, where society is going, with, millennials and on, some might say I have an issue with commitment, but I don't think it's really commitment, it's passion.
Right. They get bored.
They want to do things that they're passionate about. Mm-hmm. And if they're doing a job that doesn't bring them joy every day, you might lose them. Right. So it's up to the organization to find and figure out ways to have a happy medium. Mm-hmm. But it's also on the talent to understand what they're signing up for. If you get into an organization that has a certain culture, then you need to understand what that culture is. Ask those questions during your interview to know, what the expectation is. And if you'll have time to, have a side hustle or do something you're passionate about or volunteer time to a nonprofit organization. There are different levels of passion, that you can consider your side hustle and what you plan on doing. But both parties need to be transparent. Mm-hmm. The organization needs to know, let the talent know, I need you. I need 100% of you. I need all hours every day. I need you all in. Talent might say, this is not for me. Mm-hmm. For another organization, they might come in and say, hey, I need your thought, how you think, your ideas, your innovation. And on the flip side, you can talk to the organization of how, you're going to give them that all. Right. But there are other things you're passionate about as well. But you plan on making sure that they get all of you, during the hours that they need you. Right. So there needs to be dialogue between both parties and honesty. Right. If there's no honesty, then I don't think it's going to change much because in a corporate setting, they're going to fear if talent's telling them the truth and if they have a different motive behind what they're doing day to day. Mm-hmm. I tell and have conversations with, leadership within an organization, my managers, on what my vision is, what I plan on doing. Mm-hmm. So I'm very transparent.
It's like a partnership, right? You want to make sure you can go into, you're going into business with this person, right? You're committing a certain amount of time, you're giving your value, you're giving your thought leadership. So you need to make sure that you can trust them, right? And it's asking those questions and making sure that there's a fit before signing up. So don't feel like you need to work for an organization just because of its name or its perceived pedigree in the market. You need to make sure it makes sense for you, both personally and professionally, especially if you have aspirations of running your own business on the side, because not every organization is going to support you on that.
Right. You need to be happy at the end of the day.
Right.
Like you said, you shouldn't just do it because of the name of the organization. You should do it because it's a good fit for you. Because you have to wake up every day, work that job. Yep. And if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to perform very well because you're not giving it your all. Mm-hmm. I'm very passionate and love what I do on the MillerCoors side. I'm very passionate and love what I do on personal entrepreneurship side. Mm-hmm. It's just a perfect world where they both, can work together. Yeah. But at the same time, if I wasn't passionate about what I was doing on the MillerCoors side, they might not get my best. And they can find ways to see that, I'm hurting more than helping.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit because I think I want to give our viewers an example of how you've been able to create this harmony. So can you talk about the Exhibit Grade tour? Yeah. Because I think it's an amazing tour. It's super dope. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so Exhibit Grades, myself and Enitan Barriola, who's a 3-time best-selling author. We've put on this tour. We launched it last year in October. Mm-hmm. We kicked it off in New York to kind of celebrate, 1, our books, both being bestsellers, 2, art, 3, music, and 4, having uncomfortable conversations in a comfortable setting. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to have dialogue with the folks who followed our journey. Yeah. To talk about the highs and lows of life, relationships, business, entrepreneurship, everything. We cover all, different segments to make sure everybody's getting a piece of who we are as individuals. And what our books represent.
Yeah. I remember attending that event in New York, and it did exactly that. There was something for everyone there.
Right.
To the art that you had displayed, the artists, the musicians that you had, and the DJ, the Ciroc that was flowing. It just felt very urban, but also conservative, which is how I like to label a lot of what I do, right? Urban conservative. How do we match the two? Because we tend to operate, especially successful minorities who grew up in corporate America, we do both, and we do both very well. We live in both worlds well, and I think the happiness comes from figuring out how to mesh the two, because then you could live truly fruitful, because you're able to not adapt, but really just live in your truth, right, every day. So you've gone and created this exhibit tour, and we'll go into you being an author, but you've also been able to bring in MillerCoors and use the tour as an opportunity for MillerCoors to build brand awareness. So can you talk about that? Because I think that's a really good example of how you've been able to infuse corporate into your personal aspirations.
Yeah, so with Exhibit Gray on the tour, I personally, I don't even go through MillerCoors to get product or anything. I personally get the product and bring the awareness at the event. So brands that I'm passionate about and I love through our portfolio, I make available at the events as well, so people can try it, they can sample the products. If they like it, they love it. But at the same time, it's bringing awareness to MillerCoors.
Wait, hold on a second. So MillerCoors, this is you taking the initiative to take the product into your environment.
Right.
You know it's going to increase the brand. It's in an environment where they probably maybe don't consume too much beer, and you guys want to introduce new products. So it's not even... It's you doing what you do as a rep for MillerCoors.
Right.
So it's not MillerCoors being like, hey, if you want to do this Exhibit Gray tour, you need to put us in there. It's you taking the initiative. And I think that's key, right? Because that speaks to the value that you bring to the organization and why they're supporting you, because you are constantly thinking about, like, okay, this is something I'm doing for my personal work, but how can I bring in MillerCoors so that it's a win-win on both sides?
Right. I never want the lines to be blurred because everybody doesn't understand the story. A lot of people might see what I do on social media and ask, is Steve still working at MillerCoors, or what's going on with that?
Right.
I never want it to be blurred, so the product or the promo or anything that I include from MillerCoors' perspective is purely me giving the plus up, and sort of also a thank you for believing in and trusting in me, that I'm producing something that isn't a conflict with their values and what they represent as a whole.
Yeah.
So I make sure to include that as a part of the tour as well. And then on the flip, with MillerCoors, we have our Business and Beer tour. Our MillerCoors Business and Beer conversations, where we travel the country and we have these conversations through entrepreneurship and professional development.
So many keys dropped on how you can be a corporatepreneur, right? It's really about making sure that you're transparent, making sure they understand where you stand, where they stand, figuring out the connectivity, right? How can you add value by being an entrepreneur to them?
It's always about adding value.
Exactly. How can you enhance the brand? And I think also what that does is it makes you almost irreplaceable, because it's like, dude, what you going to do without me? Like, I'm bringing so much amazingness to this organization, real innovation. Why would you ever get rid of me, right? If anything, they're going to try to keep you around, right? Yeah. That's the hope. So,
and also key is also to make sure you have your plan in order as well.
Right. So not only are you an amazing marketer and the brand executive, but you're also an award-winning and #1 seller, right? Author.
Yeah.
So that also makes you an amazing employee for them to have, right? So tell us, what made you think of writing a book, and why did you think it was important?
So I've been fortunate in my life to meet some amazing people along my journey, who've all poured into me, my life, my career, my aspirations. And I felt it'd be selfish of me not to share that information, to have all that information and just hold it. When there's so many people who are trying to achieve and accomplish their own goals and their own passion. And, I wanted to put that in a body of work. So I tapped, 8 people on their shoulder to be in the book, from Damon John, my wife Swing Cash, Barbara Corcoran, who's also on Shark Tank, 2 Chainz, Joe Anthony, who's a serial entrepreneur, Mary Seats, who's a phenomenal entrepreneur in the fashion world, Kenny Smith, Kenny the Jet Smith, who's on Inside the NBA on TNT, 2-time NBA champion, and Everett Taylor, who's considered a millennial genius from Forbes. You know, so I wanted to tap into them to talk about not just, you know, the wins, but how they overcame failure, because we all experience failure, how they overcame it, and not just achieving success, but how do you sustain success over time. So I put that in a body of work. They each have their own individual chapters. I've sat down with them for hours to talk and pull this information, and I tell their story. So in addition to telling their story, I add my input into it as well, to build it out. So you're getting the key points out of their journey and their story, in addition to my story as well. You know, I talk about my path so you understand why I'm doing the book and who I am. So, you know, you're not questioning the body of work.
And how has becoming an author contributed to your brand?
It's been amazing. You know, when you have the Huffington Post, Forbes, Black Enterprise rolling out all these publications and news outlets, you know, recapping and covering your work, and talking about the value of it. It's been amazing. You know, I've been keynoting a lot of different organizations, conferences.
You got like flew out to like Africa or something like that,
right?
I
was in Africa, Morocco. I did 3 different conferences there to speak and keynote, and it's been amazing. You know, journey, doing this book and getting the feedback, getting the love, and the most important thing is how it's impacting people's lives. Yeah. The text messages, the emails, the direct messages, the comments from people, you know, you might not know, you know, or you've never met, you know, when people in Australia sending you messages, how it's impacted their life. It's an amazing feeling. Yeah.
You know what I love about you, Steve, and what I love getting to know about you is Steve is so calculated. Like, there's a strategy behind each of his moves, right? Even becoming an author, starting the brand executive, and how you started that with webinars on social media. Right. I think when I met you, you were like at 7,000 or something like that. And now you're like at 17,000. Like, it's just blown up. And there's been so much strategy behind that. And I know that because I've had such great conversations with Steve. And it's amazing because people hear this and they think it's something you just wake up one day and you're like, oh, I'm going to write a book, right? But they don't understand that there's a reason behind that madness, right? And how important it is for you to strategically set yourself up, even when you're going to market the book, right? Which I know you shared some gems with me of how you even become a bestseller. And that was interesting for me to learn too. Real quickly, how do you become a bestseller for people who are writing a book? What are some quick tips for them to keep in mind?
One, understand why you're doing the book. Yeah. Who your audience is. Why the audience would want to pick up the book and read it. And then you need to create opportunities for them to align with you as an individual first. So before doing the book, I did have the brand executive calls. So I was offering information
for free.
Monthly on a call where people, you know, from Munson Steve, who's the CEO of Rolling Out Magazine, to Kenny Burns, lifestyle specialist, to Eniton Barriola, to you name it, they've been on the calls. PR, I've had Nicole Garner, who's amazing in the PR world, where I'm giving insights in different industries, information for free, where people align like, all right, this is a person who has information to share with the world, right? And he's doing it out of passion and love to see the community grow, right? So there was no ask, right? You know, so along that journey, it's people coming along and getting on the calls who were passionate about the information and, you know, passionate about the work I was doing. And when I released the book, they wanted to give back and support. You know, because of me pouring so much into the community and them, that they felt like if there was anything I can do for them, I want to support and get this book. Yeah. And it wasn't me just asking for money. That wasn't it. Right. I'm actually giving you something.
Right, of value.
Of value. You know, so you know, it was great to get that support and that feedback, to know that the time that I dedicated in pouring in people, when I released the book, everybody poured back into who I am and the body of work as well. And, you know, soft cover, and I also did a digital version of it as well. So there, you know, pre-sales definitely helped in becoming a #1 author, and making sure that it was available through all outlets for people to reach. But in addition to that, I had to create marketing tools as well. So I highlighted all the individuals that were in the book, had quotes from the book, and I just distributed it throughout all outlets so people knew what they would get from that. So to become a best-selling author, one, you need to, again, know your audience, who's going to consume the book. The mind of a winner is for everybody. If you want to be your best mother, you know, you want to be the best videographer, if you want to be the best athlete, these are methods and methodologies that you can incorporate into your life to help you become the best you. Right? You define what your success is. I don't tell you that because somebody made $10 million, they're successful. That's not it. Their success could have been releasing and launching a clothing line that touched, you know, 50 different countries. That could have been the success, and the 10 million was just bonus. You know, so everybody has their own level of success. So I want to give you those methodologies and those habits to incorporate in your life to achieve that success. So everything leading up to the release of the book was momentum leading up to it. It wasn't
calculated momentum.
Yeah, it wasn't just I'm gonna release this book in August and you know see what happens. No, I'm gonna do these calls every month. So there's momentum and people being aligned with what's going on, and
getting to know you,
getting to know me as an individual, really getting to know.
That's how I got to know you. I attended one of those webinars, and I was sold after my first one, and then I continued to follow your journey. And I think what is even more amazing about you, Steve, is not only with the webinars, you also offered your time, like your in-person time to sit down and brainstorm. I followed up with you once you gave that offer. I was like, yes, Steve, let's meet, let's brainstorm. And he did. He spent time with me. It was like an hour and a half and just brainstorm with me. And I know I can call you to continue to do that. And I think that type of leadership style is why people continue to pour into you, because it works both ways. You pour into them as well.
I think it's important for people to know that there's enough in the world to be able to have open dialogue, to make sure people can be successful as well. If you've reached a level of success and you have that blueprint, it's okay to share information and have dialogue with people. I think people fear that if I share or give this information that there's not going to be anything there for me. You know, it's wanting to hold on to it. But if you have the work ethic, if you're truly passionate about it, you're going to do the work. You know, you're going to do what it needs to be done to achieve your goals and reach your level of success. But if you want to retain all that information, one, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not opening up to people for people to know who you are and want to help you. If you just hold it on to yourself, people are going to feel that energy and people aren't going to want to help. You know, but when you're passionate about something and you share and you have dialogue, people know what you're trying to accomplish, then they can figure out how they can help you. If I didn't tell, you know, 2 Chainz or Kenny Smith that I wanted to do this book and why, Barbara Corcoran, why I wanted to do the book, and she could have easily done the same thing. She could have taken it and done it herself. But she said, this is amazing. I want to help. How can I help? But it took me having that dialogue and conversation. And this is somebody with resources that could have taken an idea and ran with it. That is true. But you can't fear that. Just like you came up with one idea, you can come up with more. You know, but you need to be open enough and have dialogue enough with enough people so they can figure out how they can help you.
I love that. So not only is Steve successful in his professional life, but he also has a stellar personal life too. And so I want to go into that because, you know, I had the opportunity to meet your wife, who is amazing, former WNBA player. Like, you guys are like towers when you walk into a room. Like, it's just bold. It's amazing. I love it. how important has it been for you to have a partner that supports you and your endeavors? And what would you do if you didn't have that?
I know life before and I know life during, and after. Before, it was more about Steve. It's more about me, what I wanted to do. Now being married, it's about us and the foundation and building towards something. So I had a certain purpose as an individual, and now there's a certain purpose as, a family. Having somebody that supports your vision of what you're doing, you don't feel like you're on this journey alone. When it's just you, everything's on your shoulders and on your back. When you have a partner, it's a lot easier, one, to talk it through with somebody that you absolutely trust.
Yeah.
That's going to give you the honest feedback and not just fluff because they like you as an individual and want you to be happy with them, whoever that is, outside of your family. And knowing that they're making you a better person as well. All that together helps with your journey and focus because you have that end goal and purpose of what you're trying to achieve together. And then it's not just what you're receiving, it's what you're giving as well. And knowing that you're supporting somebody's vision and dreams 100%. And you're putting your resources behind all of that as well. So in addition to me doing a book, Swin took the time to sit down. Like, I know her journey in life, but she sat down for hours to develop this chapter on her life and her journey. She, in turn, she has a lot of things that she's trying to accomplish. So having that input, given my marketing background and where I come from, is very different from her background. She's been an athlete her whole life. I have strategy in marketing, so learning and understanding how to package her brand and her ventures and what she's trying to accomplish, I can give insight in that to help her develop and grow as well. So it's we're sharpening each other's swords, and then becoming, the strong family. So I know how much she's made me a better person, and I know what I've poured into her life and how it's impacting her. So from my experience, if I had to choose between the two, having that partner and somebody who can support your journey and give you that honest feedback, I wouldn't give up for anything.
I'm so happy you went there because that was going to be my next question, because I find that especially nowadays with social media, people are choosing to be alone instead of, finding that partner, or they're in fear of finding that partner. And I truly do believe that you can accomplish more with your partner than you can alone. And it also makes life a lot easier to live in terms of just the beauty of life, right?
Yeah. And going back to what you said, though, and the reason why I emphasize partnership, because it's the same as if it's corporate America or whatever. That's a partnership. You need to be honest, transparent with each other, talk about your visions, your goals. You see, like, it's very comparable. It's the same thing.
Right.
Marriage is a partnership as well.
Yeah.
Because you're building and developing something.
Yeah.
You're investing, you're putting your resources behind your ideas and your passions together. As an individual, sometimes, I don't want to bash and say, like, not being married or having that partner, you have no hope. That's not it. I was fortunate enough to find that person.
Yes.
It's not easy to find that person.
Tell me about it, honey.
It's not easy at all. So, but if the opportunity comes about, know that you're going to have to give your all in order for it to work. And that's the same with corporate. It's the same as being an entrepreneur. With anything, being in a relationship, you have to give it all for it to work.
Yes.
If you have, your things you're hiding or things you don't want to say, and it comes to light, that can be bad. So you have to be honest with each other, what you're trying to accomplish, so you can figure out how you can help each other.
So how have you been able to manage, the balance between, your business life and your aspirations professionally and everything you have going on with your family? You just had a beautiful baby boy. So how do you balance all of that?
Time management.
That's it. The secret is time management. You want to be successful, time management. That's it.
Going back to what I originally said with, when you're going to present this to being corporatepreneur, you have to have time management.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people say, I don't have enough time to do this. I don't have enough time to do that. Right? Write down, as something that I want everybody to do. Write down what you do in 24 hours. Pick a day, any day. Today, yesterday, tomorrow. Write down 24 hours and write down what you've done every hour. You can find 2, 3, 4 hours that you can dedicate towards your passion or your goal of what you're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. You can find time to spend with your family. You can find time to go out and have lunch or dinner. You can find time. You can make that time. It's just, what are your priorities? Mm-hmm. The priorities is what's important. Because you might say, I want to binge watch and watch this show on Netflix that takes 8 hours in a week. You decided to spend those 8 hours on binge watching a show.
Yeah.
That 8 hours could have went towards family time. That 8 hours could have went towards writing a book. That 8 hours could have went on, studying and understanding how to edit and, films or edit, a TV show or edit content. That's all on you. Right. But you need to be accountable for that time. Mm-hmm. You can find, there's 168 hours in a week. You can find 4 or 5 hours to do something that you feel you don't have enough time for.
Yeah.
You just need to go back and review how you're spending that time. Because you might not realize that you're spending an extra hour. You spent 2 hours getting ready in the morning. Mm-hmm. What could you have done the night before that could have saved you an hour? Right. Instead of 2 hours, whether it's laying out your clothes or getting things prepared for the week or the day or the next couple days. It's like meal prep.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have your 7 meals ready in the fridge every day, that's 7 hours that you saved not having to do during the week that you've done in one day in a couple hours. Now you have set for the week, and those are hours that you saved that you could do something else.
No, so true. I had an old boss of mine. He literally wore the same ensemble every day. White button-up, blue blazer, blue slacks. And I remember having a conversation with him, and I'm like, dude, where do you shop? And he's like, I shop. My shirt is high designer, but I get the same style because I don't have to think about what I need to wear the next day. Right. It eliminates the time I need to focus on that. When I get up in the morning, I already know what I'm going to wear. It's nothing fancy. And it's true. Even getting ready today, it took me, I'm like, what am I going to wear? How am I going to match this? And if you think about it, it really does take some time. So if you can simplify and figure out how you can get those minutes back, if you really put thought into it, you can figure out how you can get time to focus on what your priorities
Simplicity.
are.
That's why Mark Zuckerberg wears the same, T-shirt and pants every day.
Yeah.
Simplicity. He has other things to think about and worry about.
Right.
That's the last thing he wants to worry about.
Yes.
Is what I need to wear.
Yes. Well, I think that's his own person, because
But that's true. But that's what I'm trying to say. Everybody's different. You can find your own thing.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily need to be that. It could be anything.
Right.
You know that you need to adjust, but you need to really look at it and be accountable for that time that you're spending.
Right, exactly. So if you care about what you're wearing, you want to be stylish, then you need to find pockets of time elsewhere in order for you to make up for that.
And to really answer your question, it's priority.
Yeah.
It's what's most important to me in life.
Yeah.
Family comes before anything else. So I'm going to do things that I need to do with family before I do anything else. So if I need to make a decision, I know what my priorities are. It's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. And if it's number 6 battling with number 2 is going to get that time.
Right.
And if I make the decision where, priority item number 6, whether it's travel or vacation or, meditation time versus work, and I decide to do meditation first, I need to live with the outcome.
Yes.
That's something that a lot of people don't do. They complain, they get upset, they get mad because of the decision. You have to know your priorities in life, and when you make those decisions, you have to live with the consequences, and you have to be comfortable with those decisions, because that's going to allow you to live easier and live better.
Yeah.
You know, tough decisions are tough decisions, but you know that there's a reason why you made that decision. Mm-hmm. I didn't just wake up, I think I'm going to do this instead. No, like if I'm doing this, I know why I'm doing it, mm-hmm. and I'm going to live with the consequences for doing it and be happy that I did it.
Right. So we spoke a lot about your successes and how you've been on this amazing journey, you know, and people might think it's been all peaches and cream. So can you tell us about a challenge you face on your journey, a big one, a juicy one, okay? And tell us how perhaps maybe self-awareness helped you overcome that challenge.
Failure is a part of life. Mm-hmm. The key to failure is understanding the lessons. If you don't understand the lesson from that failure or that misfortune, then you're bound to keep making those same mistakes.
Right.
And you know, one that I talk about, and I mentioned in the book, and I talk about in the book, is when I was, you know, starting out as an entrepreneur and, you know, making 6-7 figures from clients, and the business failed because I was an entrepreneur, and I felt as if, you know, I can always get those billings and get that money. It was always going to be here forever because I was talented enough to go and get it, you know. But I didn't account that a recession would hit.
That must have been humbling.
Very humbling to get up and do what you want to do whenever you want to do it. Take trips. You have clients that are feeling amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you're hiring people. Everybody's making money. Everybody's happy. Mm-hmm. And then one day it's gone.
Yeah.
Because clients aren't spending the same money that they used to because it's a recession. People aren't spending the same money, so in turn, businesses aren't making the same money. Right. So they can't give you the same checks they were giving you. Mm-hmm. But what I learned from it, you know, especially when I joined corporate America, was strategizing, and understanding why I'm doing it, who I'm doing it for, what the plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan is, opposed to me catching what I eat and living day to day. I was running my business how 70-something% of Americans live, which is check to check. You can't run a business that way. Mm-hmm. You know, you need to strategize and understand what the plans are, what the future is, what the opportunities for innovation are. And I learned all of that from the failure. And from that, I was able to learn and then recreate and do it again. Mm-hmm. But this time smarter.
So something I ask all of our guests is, what does collaboration mean to you?
Collaboration, it's a good question. To me, it's a true partnership. Mm-hmm. Collaboration, sometimes people just go in on how's this going to benefit me.
Right.
A true collaboration and partnership is how does it benefit both parties? Right. How do both minds come together to create something that's going to be attractive to both of their audiences, not just one over the other, because next time I probably won't collaborate with you again if it doesn't make sense.
Right.
You know? So collaboration is putting everything out on the table of what we're trying to accomplish. How do we benefit? How does this work for both parties? How do we create something that can speak to both worlds? And if successful, how do we do it again? Mm-hmm. You know, that's collaboration to me. It's being beneficial to both parties. A lot of times, some people might feel, oh, my brand is bigger. So what can you really bring to the table for what I'm offering to the world? But sometimes having a sit down in that dialogue, you realize there are some things that are blind spots that this organization or this, you know, partner can bring to the table that can be beneficial to both. Yeah. You know, when I look at Exhibit Gray, Anaton's book is called The Gray. Some people might be like, why are you doing something that's, you know, titled after his book? And because it's, for me, The Gray is, you don't automatically just think of his book, The Gray. You
definitely don't.
You think of the experience that both of us are bringing to the table.
Right.
That's a partnership. Mm-hmm. You know, it could have went in a totally different direction, where I could have just been attending these events and it was all about Anaton and The Gray and his book. And that's not what it was about, because he saw how I can benefit and I saw how he could benefit, and we saw how we can bring something to the table to be beneficial to both of us, and the projects that we're bringing to the table.
Right.
So to me, that was a true collaboration and partnership for a tour that's been all over the country, sold out everywhere, and there was no conflicts. People are not confused when they attend. They know what they're getting, and after the event, I think they're more pleased than what they thought they were going to get when they got there.
Right.
You know, so collaboration to me is all of the above, and making sure first and foremost is beneficial to both parties. You can't go into it just thinking, how can I benefit from this? Because when you go in with the I mentality, it's probably not going to work, because you're going to see all the faults in what you're doing outside of what's benefiting you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
This is awesome.
I grew more in love with you. No disrespect to Swin. No, seriously, Steve, you always are dropping so many gems, and I appreciate you being you, and for really blessing our community with your presence, with your thought leadership, and just leading by example. So thank you.
Thank you, for being a voice and creating a platform for people to share their story. Thank you for all the work that you do and continue to do.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.